Game over. It is game over.
Game over, cancer. I'm Val Solomon, Director of Program Impact at Cannonball Kids Cancer Foundation.
And I'm Dana Nichols, Executive Director of CKC.
Game Over, Cancer, a podcast dedicated to exploring conversations about pediatric cancer research, solutions, and inspiring family stories.
We're a nonprofit dedicated to creating innovative treatment options for kids fighting cancer and educating for change.
By creating a space for these conversations, we empower the community to take action and provide tangible hope.
Game over, cancer. Screw you, cancer.
Today's episode is all about making giving a part of your culture and why that rocks. How fun is this job, right? Sometimes we work with the most incredible people.
The best.
And then sometimes we work with Jim Knight. No, I'm just kidding.
And he is both of those
He
things.
is both of those things.
We laugh till we cry a lot when
In
we're
a
with
really
Jim.
good way, though. Yeah.
So as you'll hear in the episode, Jim gives a percentage of all of his speaking fees to CKC.
Mm-hmm.
So quarterly, we are so honored to receive a donation, a gift from him, which is great. We also care deeply about stewardship,
Yes.
which means that we write him a thank you note every time.
Mm-hmm.
And what's beautiful is that this is now years into this relationship,
Yeah,
and
but we're also running out of thoughts for ways to say thank you to this person who's been so steadfast in their support of us.
exactly.
So.
He is a total rock star, and we felt like we were getting a little stale on our thank you notes.
Mm.
So what does a millennial do? They turn to ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, baby.
So we started asking ChatGPT to help us write thank you notes to Jim.
Mhm.
And we would say, we're going to write to a donor. Can you please do it in the voice of?
Uh-huh.
And so, for example, Steven Tyler, because he's a hard rock guy and a rock star of a guy. And we felt like Aerosmith felt like that way to
great.
go.
Yeah.
And then if you watch us on video or you go check out Jim, he's got, he leans a Guy Fieri kind of,
Yeah, he's got the
view.
hair.
He's
Yeah.
got the hair. He's kind of got that Flavortown vibe.
Yeah.
So we asked ChatGPT to write a thank you note as Guy Fieri.
Mhm.
And we thought we'd read part of it because it was art.
It's great.
good.
So you can do this yourself, by the way. If you're wanting to inject a little bit of Flavortown into your own thank you note writing, feel free to use ChatGPT because you'll get examples like,
You'll get this. You will get, Dear Jim, Flavortown wouldn't be the same without awesome folks like you. Your generosity is hotter than a jalapeno popper and sweeter than a triple-decker chocolate fudge cake. We're going to speed this up because it had 2 more paragraphs, but it ended with, keep spreading those good vibes and making a difference. You're the real MVP of Flavortown. Fieriously thankful, the team at CKC. So we have run through Moira Rose, Taylor Swift, Oprah.
Yeah.
We've been running these through quite a bit,
Mhm.
and we're having a blast with it. We promise that we asked Jim, and he thinks it's funny.
yeah.
But even more importantly, we think it's funny.
I do want to point out, though, that we also didn't find out from him if he actually liked it or not before we started telling everybody that this is a funny, fun thing you can do. And we think it's hilarious, but our donor hasn't mentioned it yet.
Yes. So now we're all in on the
Confirmed.
joke. We all think we're funny. Please enjoy this episode with Jim Knight.
Well, today we have a really fun guest. I'm so excited. This is keynote speaker, best-selling author ×3, culture that rocks, leadership that rocks, service that rocks, investor, dedicated CKC supporter, friend, fun guy.
All of
Please welcome Jim Knight.
Yay. How's it going, guys?
it. We are so happy you're here.
Me too. I think of all the lunches and meetings that we had, and I know we talked business. I don't remember all of that part. I just remember laughing the whole time. I
Me
think
too.
the 3 of us, it's been fun.
Me too, 100%. I know we're going to have real conversation, but this will be the giggliest episode.
Probably.
I guarantee
Yes.
it.
Probably.
I hope so.
Absolutely.
Even
I
the
hope
prep
so.
was giggly. We're like, should we bring that up?
You were like, no, don't laugh. Save it for the show.
Don't do the good laughs yet.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think where do we even start? To me, because you've been around for so long and longer than I've been with CKC, my whole CKC journey involves you. But where did you get involved in CKC? How did that start for you?
Yeah, my former business partner, who is obviously very connected to CKC, Brant Menswar, his son suffered from pediatric cancer, a form of it. And I think, I've always been involved in some sort of a philanthropic organization. My background, for the most part, was in restaurants. And so I'd always supported hunger-related stuff. And I love when organizations will support some cause that can connect their employees to whatever the cause is and not just randomly pick something. If you can't have a connection, it's okay to pick something. But in this case, I think I fell in love with CKC through Brant. And I think just along the way, I think hearing the statistics and just knowing the few amount of dollars from a research standpoint that were actually allocated to the pediatric cancer side was really mind blowing to me. And I think, part of it really just had to deal with you two and, some of the former people that were also involved with CKC. I think my love affair started very deep in just understanding the plight, the uphill battle that you guys did, but extremely innovative and creative. And I thought, this is an organization that is in my backyard. As I, just have my trajectory continues to grow in different areas, I thought, hey, if I can, put a white hot spotlight or a shine on the organization, I think that would be great. And so it's not the only organization that I support, but you guys are my favorites. So
that was the correct answer. Yes,
that was. I did right. Okay, check. I got one answer right. It's just I think along the way, it wasn't just the organization. It was really, here's what the mission is. I know research is so critical, but then when you meet the actual people that are behind the scenes that are actually doing the heavy lifting, I think that's where my business crush started.
And you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but I want to make sure our audience understands that you are an expert in organizational culture, leadership, messaging, making sure that the values of an organization and business are solid, but also communicated to customers. Like that's where you spend a lot of time and energy. And for you, that also means giving back. And you encourage companies and businesses that should be a part of that ethos. Can you talk a little bit about how that came to be for you, both personally and professionally?
Yeah, it started early. I would say mostly because of my 21-year career with Hard Rock. So I was with Hard Rock International. I ran their training and development for all their cafes, casinos, hotels, some live music venues. But I started off as a kid as a host. My hair did not go up. It wasn't spiky at the time it went down. I had a mullet that was about 2.5 feet, as we all did in the 90s. But what I was amazed, and it started on day one working for that company, there was not a single marketing event or a live music event that didn't have some sort of a charitable component. And so this is an organization that has mottos literally emblazoned on their walls, like love all, serve all, take time to be kind, all is one, save the planet. They were saying this way before it became popular, I think, even in the 90s. And so when you see an organization like that goes out of their way to do things that would help other people that were less fortunate, it started to affect me. Here I am, just burgers and T-shirts and rock and roll, and I could look and be and say whatever I wanted to. And then I started to travel the world on their dime and opening up Hard Rocks in probably 35 plus countries. It really was a career of a lifetime, but always, not even in the back of my mind, it was in the forefront. I thought these guys are making the world better, and they don't stand up on some mountaintop or beat on their chest and go, look how awesome we are at giving back. They just did it because. And so I think both the Hard Rockers, the team members, and the guests, the consumers, I think they both figured out, hey, they're doing something a little bit bigger than everybody else out there. And if I've got to like business, I'd rather choose the one that's actually, giving a hoot about people and people that are a little bit less fortunate. So I think that really affected me quite a bit. I'm a faith-based guy, so I already came to the party with that mindset, but now I work for a company and this rock and roll, you would think it's pretty crazy and seedy and operating in the gray a lot, and that's all true. But I do think that when you have a heart and it's really big, and if you're going to stick something on the wall like save the planet, you better go out there and save the planet or else it's liar, liar, pants on fire. Like people will call you on that. So I think when I left the company in 2012, so I've been gone, depending on when you listen to this, it's been about 14 years. for me, I still feel like that has resonated with me. I still have that film that I'm always looking at the world going, what can I do to give back? So I think, Val, the first part of your question was, I think every organization can do something. And I do remember back in, I would say 10 years ago, so back in the turn of the 2000s, there weren't a lot of companies that were doing something. And I, it wasn't just they weren't creating some sort of a charitable philanthropic arm that they could give to. Some of them maybe would just set up something, which is a good start. I will support you, employees, if you want to go and do that on your own time, and I'll give you a t-shirt or we'll feed you food or whatever. But now I think it's elevated that almost every company, if they're worth their weight in salt, they're doing something. And the ones that are taking a percentage off the top, I'm not talking about net, I'm talking about gross proceeds that are going somewhere, I think are amazing. And it says a lot about them. And once again, I think if you're looking to attract rock stars, if you want awesome top talent, you kind of have to do some of these things that probably started with millennials. It's parlayed over to Gen Z. They want to work for a company, again, who is going to give back. And then I start to think customers are doing the same thing. They're starting to make choices based off of that. So again, going back to your question, when I left Hard Rock, I said, I'm going to continue to do this regardless of whatever it is I do. So yes, I make my living as a keynote speaker. I have a company called Investments That Rock. So I invest in a lot of other companies that are awesome as well. But I go out of my way to make sure that I take 5% of everything that I make and I write a check, to CKC. And it's my favorite check to write. Even when times are tough, even when I went through COVID, it doesn't matter. And this is a little bit more of the faith-based guy. I think when you do those types of things and you bring your first gifts to the table, phenomenal things happen. And I do get rewarded tenfold. And sometimes it's tough. Sometimes I'm the philanthropy. I should be keeping the money. But I think if everybody had that mindset, if everybody had that passion, that drive, that commitment to give no matter what, and pick the charity that makes the most sense for you, which I'm making a big statement here because I go, my kids are all grown now. I don't have anybody that is really tied to pediatric cancer. Right. I just understand your mission, and I know people that have lost kids to cancer. So I go, I want to be a part of that. I would love to be alive when we eradicate childhood cancer, if not all cancer. Like I want that to be on my watch, just like I did when I was in the restaurants. Hunger related, I think we should be able to get rid of childhood hunger when 1 out of 6 kids go to bed hungry, and yet 40% of all food goes to waste. I go, how is that possible in this country? So I want to be a part of the revolution that eliminates, whether it's hunger, whether it's cancer, whatever it is. And I think this is the time to do it. So I know that's a long answer, but I just make it a part of my business, and I don't even think twice about it. When I'm writing the quarterly check, I go, this is awesome. I really dig doing that.
I think I love everything you said. There's so much good there. And I think that it's true that doing good feels good and it's good for your business. I mean, quantitatively, qualitatively. And to your point, that's what I think as consumers we're looking for. And as people who want to live an authentic life, then I want to work for a company that has authentic values. And Hard Rock's a beautiful example. And yet, where do you start if you're like at square one and you're like, well, I don't know my values. I'm not really sure what my culture is for my company. Where do you start to just do the next thing to build something?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Depends on how big the organization is. If you're a founder, you're working by yourself in a kiosk in the middle of nowhere, you can pretty much do whatever you want to. Once you start employing humans who have free will, they're going to do what they want to do. But I think this is where leadership comes in. When you start to impact and influence by the way that you operate, the way that you communicate both to the customer, the end user, the guest, the client, but also internally to the employees, I think it starts to make a huge difference to the extent that you can now start getting the employees involved. So this is one thing I would do if it was a small business, unless you are crystal clear and you go, this is what we do. And I'll make an analogy. Let's say I sell cars. There's cars for kids. There's places that you can go and donate a car. So you go, that's probably the thing that would make sense for us. But if, let's say you're working, I don't know, in a paper factory, what would the charity be? And maybe if you go, I can't really pinpoint one, Ali Income for you get the employees involved where they can have a conversation. What resonates with them? And you may be surprised. There might be somebody on the team who comes up with the perfect organization, or they're already going through something. They're going through something that you didn't even know. And until you did something like this, we're going to rally around him or her for their cause. Or maybe you start with collectively some sort of an ambassador program where you can collect funds and money and activities just for the staff itself. So sometimes when you go, you're taking care of me, I'm more likely now when you're ready to pick a cause, we'll go out there and support that. So I think you could start small. There's nothing wrong with that. Probably a lot of people are going to go with the United Way and Salvation Army and donate to Goodwill, and that's fine. There are a lot of people generically that will do that. Sometimes when you can get down to the niche organizations, if you got to make sure they're an authentic organization, but when you get down to them who also need as much love, attention, and funds and rigor as all the others, I think you will establish a relationship. And now, especially somebody like me who's got a little bit of a louder voice, you'll be able to get other people involved. So you can start small, whatever your personal values are, and just go pick something, but don't do nothing. That would be the name of the game. And I'll make a side note. I think there are some people who think, geez, and again, this is my religious mind going there. Some people are going, I already give 10% to the church. Like I already tied that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. You could, in fact, if you wanted to, not give 10%, you could give 5% to the church and use the philanthropic organization as part of your tithing. If you feel like, man, I'm struggling giving 10%, well, okay, give whatever you can. And if it's only 1%, what difference does it make? Everybody could do something. And there are organizations out there that need a lot of attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talk a whole lot at CKC about just that because pediatric cancer is such a huge problem to solve, right? It's not going to take, even the largest major donor is not going to be able to solve the problem long term. And so it really is about coming together through collective impact. And I think it's really great that how you were able to just illustrate that, how that can happen at someone's workplace.
Yeah.
And I think that really is what, the next generation of employees is really looking for. We just talked about it in a different episode as well, how there are fewer and fewer spaces where people feel connected and authentic and like safe and belonging. And for better or for worse, I guess, people are looking towards their places of employment for that too. And so it can really be leveraged in that sense, since it's happening anyway. It can be leveraged by the company to do good, to increase sales, to help their workforce stay happy. I mean, there's so many different things. And, I think when we get down to the part where we're talking about collective impact, that's really what is driving all of that.
You make a great point. And actually two things that came out of that, I think about Jersey Mike's, and I think they've done this a couple of years now in a row for you guys, at least locally. And I know their Day of Giving, which they do in March every year, every one of them are able to contribute to whatever cause makes sense. And so you guys have done so much work with them. They've rallied around CKC. And for those that don't know, they will give all of their sales on that particular day to whatever charity, their charity of choice. And so it's funny because I know a lot of people that are involved with Jersey Mike's. John Hughes is a good friend of mine, and he's their cultural training guru over there. And so we have a connection, and he's so proud of Cannonball Kids Cancer and what happens here locally. He doesn't live in this state, but he just knows, and he's developed a relationship with you guys. But it's funny because I'll see the check that they give, and I'm like, whoa, like the amount that they provide on that day. And it's sort of, one, I love that the organization's done that. But two, in my mind, I'm like, man, my check is like peanuts compared to them. Why does it matter? And then I'll get a card from you guys. I'll get something from my last quarterly check. Go, do you know that you funded like 2 different programs, like 2 different trials that we would not have been able to do because we were using funds for other things? You made a difference. And so even bigger when you go to the Gold Gala or you look at the newsletter and you see somebody who actually received some treatment or is connected to some doctor or a scientist that's just doing research on behalf of that person, you go, man, my funds helped do that. That is a person's life who was either going to be extended or they're going to survive from this, it's pretty empowering. And again, I really push a lot of people to get involved in some way. Don't get wrapped up in, oh, what difference will mine make? Because it's a drop in the bucket when somebody else has the bucket and has already filled it up with a lot. It doesn't matter. Every little bit helps, especially when it comes to research.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Jersey Mike's is such a good example. We love them. And I think, from a perspective of having spent the last few years of their giving day, you have customers coming in because it's their favorite day. But we were at one of the stores this past March.
I saw that.
And they said to us, the manager said, I have to schedule everybody in 2-hour shifts today because the entire team wants to work today. Yeah. It is everybody's favorite day. I was at another store and a guy said, I've been here for 14 years. This is my favorite day every day. You work here for 14 years and you're going to go out in the community and other people are going to tell you about how they can't find any staff to work for them. Yeah. They don't have that problem at Jersey Mike's. And so it's such to me, when you have values and you live them out, that is exactly what that is. And you allow your communities to choose what's important to them, but then model it across the country. They gave out $21 million a year from that day. And it's so beautiful, but it just does speak to everything we're talking to, that it's good for me who wants the sandwiches. It's good for my son who's always like, we should go to that place that gives to your work, Mom. Yes. And then it's good for your employees and their morale. It's it's win, 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 win. You can't argue against it at some point.
Well, and now when you have choices as a consumer to go, there's a lot of sub places out there.
Yes.
I'm going to that one first and foremost because of what they've done. And it's
100%.
Probably moved themselves a little bit further up in my mental shelf space. Like when I hear subs, I go, I'm going there first. And unless I don't have one near me or if I'm traveling and I have some other alternative, that's fine. But I would rather spend my money there knowing what they're doing. Now, again, I think most companies have figured it out and they're doing something. So it's not like they're awesome and the rest just aren't.
Right.
Everybody's doing something, but I love that they support you guys because, I love supporting you guys.
Yeah, it's mutual all around.
And I think that Jersey Mike's, in my mind, I think what really spoke to me the day that we went to visit was we met people from different levels of all throughout the organization. And it was the culture of giving permeated throughout. It was every single person we met. Yeah. So I think it goes to your point about having values that are a part of the culture. I have never seen what their headquarters looks like, but there's giving back messaging in everything that they do. And when you talk to them about, how they established such a great corporate social responsibility program, they give credit to their founder. And this is how he was. This is how he operates. This is how, this is what he instilled in the shop, in the culture of the organization. It permeates all throughout. And so I think it just goes right back to what you were saying about doing something, but also authentically real with who you are, and then have it just catch passion across everybody else.
Yeah. My one of my business partners, Kathleen Wood, she and I have done a lot of things with mostly restaurants and a couple of hotels around mission, purpose, values. But when you can collectively get a lot of people that will make that part of their rallying cry, they put it as a value, which is really the guideposts, the guardrails for which you're going to operate. And let's say you have 5, 6, or 7 of those. You can't just put it up on the wall, like I was saying before. You can't just have it in the handbook or the manual or the values card if, in fact, you're not doing anything with it. And our friend Brant, who wrote the book literally on coming up with personal values, again, if you're an individual, you could do the same thing, whether you're using some tool to figure it out or you just sit down and go, what are the things most important to me? Like for me, giving is one of my values. Now, if I say that out loud, I better make sure I have some activity coming behind that. And so I think, again, some people will probably say it, but I really do believe that most people, if they're going to spend the time and the energy to map out their values, or they're going to work for an organization that doesn't just have it on day one orientation and you never talking about it. It's like it's ingrained in their job description, their performance appraisal, how they get assessed, the conversations on a regular basis. If we're going to make a decision here, I don't want to talk about making some big decision unless the poster or the card is on the table so that we can put our decisions through that. That's when the values actually come alive. So I could talk about values all day long. I've been doing that for so many years, but I would say many of the companies and the ones who actually do care about making a bigger difference than just the money, they will put some sort of a charitable, philanthropic, giving back, some sort of, that mantra has got to be in their day-to-day business. And once again, to your point, people are going to follow through from a customer or an employee standpoint and go, man, you just bought me for like another year because these are things that you're doing and saying, and they match up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think at the end of the day, aligning your values with your work and putting out what you're really doing is just building trust.
Yeah.
And I always want to be with people I trust that match energy. Those are, for me. And so your point of like, if you're telling me to make decisions or asking for my opinion, but nothing's matching, then why do I feel heard? Why am I getting there?
Disengaging, right? Than having your opinion or your whatever asked of you and then have it just completely disappear, right? That's so disengaging.
Which is why I believe in doing, let's say, employee surveys, whether they're once a year or whatever. But if you go and do the survey and you ask people a bunch of stuff and they give you feedback and you do nothing with it, you just wasted a lot of time and money. Why you do it in the first place?
I'm never filling out that survey again. I'll tell you that.
And if you do it right, you could do a survey every 6 months. I mean, you could do it on a regular basis. I know people think, it's survey time, or it's going to be time consuming. But there are tools out there that are very short. I'm not, this is my HR hat for a second. I'm just
it's great.
No, I love it. Keep going.
I'm like, do something and communicate to them. I heard you. Here's the things that I'm working on. Again, I think the ones that start out of the gate, if you can found and start an organization and you've already got the values of giving back in some form or fashion, then it's a non-issue. If you inherit the business, if you take it over, or you draw a line in the sand because maybe you're listening to this podcast or you're watching it, or you're like, I don't really do anything. I should do something.
Right.
Pick something and then ingrain it into the organization. And it might be weird for some people if they've never done anything like that. But usually when the boss, when the founder, when the top person, he or she is in charge, says, here's what we're going to do, it's that important. Or I want everybody in a room. Let's figure it out. Let's pick something and then we're going to run with it. When you do that, it's empowering. Are you going to have everybody on board? No, there's going to be a couple people. They're just in there to punch the time clock and work out their shift and go have a drink afterwards. Fine. You're not going to get everybody, but boy, you can create an army of giants if you just got a small group of people who would rally around the cause. And for me personally, I think a single person can do that. I really do believe a single person with a great idea can start a revolution. That's how cultures are created. That's how governments are overthrown. That's how philanthropic organizations get turned into big, huge things that people go, I want to be a part of that. They want to have legacy leaving stuff involved in their life. And, CKC is a worthy ally for me. So I'm very happy to support you guys.
We love it. We love you.
It's a love fest.
It's a big love fest. What haven't we chatted about that you want to chat about? Anything else?
No, I'm happy. I do put CKC's logo at the end of all of my sessions. I get a chance to do 35, 40 engagements a year in all different types of industries. It's hilarious. You would think I'd be doing mostly stuff in restaurants and hotel hospitality, but it's far from it. I do a lot in insurance and banking and auto mechanics and healthcare. Funeral directors are some of my biggest clients. I kill with those guys. Somebody had to say it. Right. But it's interesting because I don't even talk about any of that stuff till the very end. And I think if I'm worth my weight in salt, if they like the content, they like the delivery, and I'm usually a lot louder and faster and aggressive than I am right now. So I tend to bring the thunder as much as I can when I'm in front of people. But then at the very end, if it resonated with them and then they go, whoa, that's kind of cool that he is writing checks to these organizations. I think that's when it really hits with people. I try not to, again, sort of like I was saying with the organizations, I don't want to stand up and go, look at all this cool stuff that I do. I'd rather the work stand on its own. And then on the side, they're going, man, that's pretty cool. You're walking the line between being cool and being themey. And so, I don't want to cross the line and all of a sudden it's like you're trying to go for the cash grab to get people to just donate. Although, listen, money and donations is a lot of the ways that you guys have to survive. But again, I just think people can do something. So for me, I'm just happy that you guys invited me onto the show and let me ramble on a little bit. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. And all of our listeners who are now obsessed with you, where can they go to find out more information of how to book you or buy your books or just hear about you forever?
Thank you. I thought you were going to talk about hair care products, which I can also do if you want.
If you're ready to buy your hair care
you want to go down, Jim, that's where we'll head.
Yes. All roads lead through my website. It's Night Speaker. So that's my last name, KNIGHT speaker.com. And there's video clips on there. You'll see all my books. Thank you for talking about those at the top of the show. I'll say I'm not really... I would never claim to be an expert on anything. I have a lot of expertise in some areas. I certainly have some experience. But my books are a great way. They're all Amazon #1 bestseller. So I've been very fortunate for that. And like I said, you'll be able to see all the different areas that I play in, including all the stuff I invest. So if you're an investor, I can talk about that as well.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and talking about, just how it is, what it's like to be one of our donors, but also, it's in the fight with us. We really appreciate you.
My pleasure.
And I love how you especially took us on the journey of how to do this and be a leadership by example within the community and inspire others. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. You guys are fantastic. Rock on.
If you're ready to be a part of Team CKC and be inspired as well and join us in educating for change, please like, share, and subscribe.
Thanks for tuning in. We know it takes so much to face our very difficult topic head on, but it makes a difference, and we appreciate you joining us, making a commitment to be part of our fight and changing the status quo in pediatric cancer. So I'm Dana Nichols.
And I'm Val Solomon.
Until next time.
Bye. Join us as we transform fear into courage and turn adversity into opportunities for change.
If you want to be involved in the conversations that create change in the world of pediatric cancer, take a moment, share, like, and subscribe.